Hey there, crazy cats and kittens. It's Jeff from Third Shift Brewing, back with part 2 of my documentary series on how to make a hoppy IPA sour beer. So we have had our beer souring through natural lactobacillus creation from the husks of the grains that we put in to our 2 vessels here with the beer. They've been in there for 48 hours almost exactly, at about 110 degrees, and they've been in there doing their thing. So we're about to transfer those beers out of there and into the boil kettle. All right, we are transferring our soured beer into our boil kettle. I measured the pH of both of the larger carboy and the smaller carboy because I had an 8-gallon batch. I had to split it up. This dropped from a pH of 4.4 to 3.4, and this one dropped from a pH of 4.4 to 3.1. So they're going to get blended together, but that, once again, that pH is that measurement of how sour it is. The lower the pH, the more sour the beer. So we are putting this into our kettle, combining the two, getting ready for our hop steep and possible boil. I'm going to check the gravity of the beer to see if I need to boil it. Just to hit my target gravity, it was a little light. So we'll take that measurement and we'll be right back.
Go.
Hey, we're back. All right, so beer in the kettle. I'm low on my gravity, meaning that the alcohol content of the beer would be low if I just move forward as is. So I'm going to bring this up to a boil. I'm going to boil it for 30 minutes. Then I'm going to come back, drop that to 140 degrees, throw my hops in. We'll see you when we get the hops in. All right, here we're back. So we have boiled for 30 minutes, and I ended up adding 8 ounces of corn sugar too to help boost my gravity a little bit. So we're gonna let this cool. We're gonna take a reading, and we're gonna let it cool by running cold water through our heat transfer device here, our copper coil with hose water coming in and going out. That'll cool the beer down to 140. I'll be back when we get down to 140 to pitch our hops and have a gravity reading then. Okay, next step. We've been boiling for 30 minutes, trying to get our gravity down. I hit 1042, wanted to be at like 1047, so I'm a little low, but I think that's gonna be okay. That's probably the least of my concerns on this first attempt to make this hazy sour IPA. So what we did was we boiled for 30 minutes, and then we cooled using our chiller here. Chiller I don't use very often. It's dedicated to the sour program now. As you can see by the stickers, trying to keep everything segregated so that we don't get sour beer in with our clean beer in the brewery. So I'm trying to use this as an opportunity to take all of my older equipment, put sour stickers on it, and dedicate it and keep it away from the rest of the brewery when we're making other beers. So we've chilled it now down to 140. I just added a bunch of hops, 3 ounces of Mandarina Bavaria, 2 ounces of Equinox Cryo hops, which I've never used before. I got these free at HomebrewCon. And then, so 2 ounces of Equinox and 1 ounce of Idaho 7, also a cryo hop. So it's supposed to be much, much more intense. The cryo hops, I've never used them before, so I guess we'll figure that out as we go. I will go ahead and dry hop during fermentation and kind of at the tail end of fermentation. From what I've read and watched on Barley and Hops TV, I want to see what happens when the hops kind of interact with the yeast during fermentation. So we're at 140 degrees right now with our hop stand. I'm going to leave the hops in there to steep for 15 minutes, keep it at 140 degrees, and then we'll be back to show the final step, which is adding the yeast and getting this thing into the fermenter. So we chilled it from boiling to 140. We added all of our hops. We chilled, after letting the hops steep in there for 15 minutes, we chilled it down to 70 degrees. So now we are ready to transfer the work from the boil kettle into our final fermentation vessel. We're going to add hops along the way. I've been reading about how you get a little bit more out of hops if you add hops during fermentation. the yeast. That is a hoppy looking monkey right there. The yeast we're using today is, I just cut the lid off, so I can't tell you. It's Brussels Trois. So it is a yeast that also has bacteria to further sour the beer. Once again, a recommendation from Barley and Hops TV. Thank you very much for that. All right. We're going to cork this sucker, ferment it, and I'll report back after we dry hop and hopefully when we're ready to taste it.
24 hours later.
And we're here checking in on the beer here in the third shift brewing lab with our Flanders Red program over here. And here we are going to take a peek 24 hours later. This is the hazy sour IPA starting to krausen form here. Fermentation is started and moving along according to schedule.